Hey there, Sparkers. Welcome to another episode of our RPG tutorial series. This is episode 13. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to add a new spell to our mana system. We're going to make an ice spell, which is going to be very cool and behave very differently from the fireball. Better yet, we're going to be able to get this spell when we level up. So it's going to be something new where we're looking at how to unlock ability at a new level. And it's very easy to do. So let's bring out a new effect to use for the spell. So if I go to my visual effects here, the one I wanted to do for this ice spell is actually it's an energy projectile, but I thought it actually looked kind of icy, and it's a nice blue color that I would already want. So, and it also kind of matches the dimensions here of the fireball I already have in world. So very cool. Put that down. Now I'm going to take a look at the mana brain here, and if you remember way back when in the other episode when we built this mana system, we put all the logic of the fireball, the stats for it, on the second page. So when we called this page, it would tell us what we're shooting, and it points to the fireball and how much it costs. So when I choose to use Y here, and when I have more magic or more mana than what it costs, I can actually shoot that type of magic, and then I decrement my current mana by that mana cost. So we want to build this new spell in that system, and it's very easy to do. That's kind of why we built this like this to begin with, so we could add more spells to it. So I'm going to just copy this page. I'm going to go to a new page, and let's insert that, or paste it, excuse me. And let's rename page, and we're gonna call this we'll just call this new magic ice ball, just to keep consistency here. So ice ball, we want to make sure we point this to this new energy, this energy projectile, which I think looks icy kind of anyway. And let's make this a new cost too. Let's make it 20, let's say. Now, when I'm in here and using in-world picker on effects gizmos, they all come out of the gallery named the same thing. So if I switch between these two pages here, you can see it's just FX gizmo, right? So let's rename these just so I can make sure they're pointed to the right thing. So if I open up this prop and choose a rename, we can just call this fireball. And if I open this one up, we'll do the same thing, call it ice ball. So now when I jump back here in the mana brain, I know that this the fireball page is pointed correctly to the fireball effect, and when I go to the ice ball page, it's appropriately pointed to the ice ball effect. So great. So let's customize these even further. We can go in and actually adjust how much damage these do. So if I go to this line 7 here, shoot magic, I can go and look at modifiers, and I have an option to do with damage. And I can set that to a number variable. So if I go to values, number variable, new number variable, and we'll just call this magic damage, I can now change how much damage is done by each spell that I give myself, or each magic. So I'll do that there. Then I'll go over to page 2, and let's do a new line that gets initialized, and we'll just say, let's say the fireball does 5 damage, so it'll take 2 fireballs to take out a goblin. And let's say, if I copy that line and paste it here on my ice ball page, I can say, you know, this costs double, and so let's make this twice the damage. So this will take, this will be able to kill a goblin in 1 hit, let's say. All right. So we want to be able to unlock the ice ball spell when we get to level 2, and that's really, really easy to do. So if you remember, we moved the level number variable in a previous episode into my into the player by using add brain now. So that's a local variable. So I need to check when that level is pointed to level 2 basically. So if I go to my number variables here, let's find level, and when I want to see is when my level equals 2. We're going to call the new ice spell. So call page, and then we're going to reference that by its name, which is under text here. So when we renamed it, it's really nice. It knows what those are called, and we like to put those the @ symbol in front, so they come up higher in order here in my as I'm scrolling through the different pages in my code tiles. So @iceball. Perfect. And we only need to have, call this page once because it just initializes those variables on page 3. So we want to use, go to timing and logic here, and we'll do started to. So as soon as my level is equal to 2, I'm going to call iceball. So what it'll do now is I'll start off with fireball equals, or magic will equal fireball, mana cost will equal this, and magic damage will equal 5. But as soon as I get to level 2, it's going to replace all those variables with these new things now. And so it'll give me this ice ball effect. So let's test, see what that looks like. Alright, daily challenge. Woo. Let's punch some goblins here. And now I got to level 2. So if I shoot my new spell, I have, there we go. Oh, and I forgot one thing. I'm glad I actually forgot this on stream, because it's a very, if that happens to you, you're gonna wonder what you did wrong. So it's good to see that I forgot to do that. If I go to this ice ball here, I need to, since it's a projectile and I'm creating a bunch of them, I need to make sure that it is set to template equals true. And then we saw in a previous video with the fireball that it won't do any damage unless it's set to collidable. So if I go to physics, and make sure that it's collidable now. So let's go to test. So really glad that happened. So make sure that your projectiles are templates and they're collidable. Go to test again. So you can see I'm level 1 right now. If I shoot, I have fireballs, and they only take up half of my mana, cost 10, and it takes 2 hits to take out a goblin. But if I get to level 2 now, I will shoot an ice ball, and it'll take all my mana, but it'll kill a goblin in 1 hit. Do another one there. And we'll just punch this guy out. So there we go. So I got a new spell when I got to level 2. But now let's say I want to actually switch spells, right? So most of the time I wouldn't want to override my fireball with my ice ball unless it was like a better version of the fireball, right? I would want to keep, kind of start building an arsenal of different magic spells that I could use anytime. So let's add a new way to switch spells. So we're going to do this in the mana brain. We'll just keep it in here with all my kind of spell logic. And what we'll do is we're going to use the D-pad to control what spell I have selected. And we'll just figure, maybe we'll have 4 spells in this game. So up, down, right, left, we'll select between spells. So we'll do look at modifiers. Let's say up direction, and when D-pad up is pressed on the controller, find pressed here. Just make sure it only runs when I press it. So good to know there. I'm going to call the the fireball page is what I want, since that's the first spell that I'm going to get. So go to text, new text, and @fireball. There we go. And then what we want to say is we're going to bring this line down actually. And we don't need the started to anymore, and we'll only look when I'm equal to or greater than level 2. I'll be able to switch to this new ice ball. And I'll just copy line 11 here down below, move that over. And let's make this direction right. And we'll call it to the page ice ball. And we can delete these 2 lines now. So now I can see when I press up on the D-pad at any level, I can get fireball. And when I'm greater than level 2 or equal to, I can press right to call the ice ball. And let's also create a display here so I can understand what's going on. So which one I have selected, right? Otherwise, I would have to actually shoot it to see what I have selected. So let's go to appearance, display, and let's just copy this object variable here, magic. And we'll put this in the bottom left corner. So screen location, bottom left. And so this is there's gonna be something wrong here, but I'll explain what happens when we go to test. So go to test. So I have an image here in the bottom corner, but it's actually of the effect gizmo itself. It's not that nice picture of the fireball from the gallery. But I can still shoot right now, fireball. As soon as I get another goblin here, I'm going to level up. And I'll just punch one. Alright. So now I can actually switch over with the right stick, and there's ice. And then if I go back and press up on the D-pad, I can actually shoot fireball again. So now I can switch between my different spells. So that's great. Let's fix that display real quick. And if you remember from our inventory tutorial, I know we've done a couple of those, but from when we added the equip logic to display when we were equipped, you can actually set an image to a text variable. So let's do that here. So when I have a different spell, I'm going to create a new text variable, and it's going to be called, I will just call it magic image, exactly what it is. And we'll say, so on the Fireball page, we'll set that equal to, if I go to Objects, Gallery Picker, I can go to an icon, and let's choose fire, or search for fire, and then, oh, excuse me, I want effects. That's what I'm looking for. And let's just choose Fireball, and let's copy that line, go over to Iceball, and do the same thing. Except this time we're gonna look at the energy again, and its effects, and scroll over a little bit more. There we go. So now we have those two as an image. We'll copy that text variable over here, and we'll replace that object variable with that text image. Now, when I test this, you're immediately going to notice that I can see it, but it's really, really tiny. So before I even do anything more, let's go and make that a little bit bigger so we can see it. And I'm going to show a cool, handy trick you can do with text, with actual font or with images like this. I can actually enter before whatever I want. If I can do it's kind of a little hack where if I can actually enter a text string, so it's kind of an insider tip. If I go to new text, I can do an open bracket and do size and colon, and then let's say like 50. Then end the statement with a semicolon and then a close bracket. That'll actually adjust the size of the text that's coming right after, or in this case, the text variable, which is an image. So that'll make it bigger for me. And there's little other tricks you can do, some styling between like italic and bold too, doing something similar, but we'll probably cover that in another episode. But as soon as I do that, I can back out here and go to test. And you'll notice that image now is bigger in the bottom left-hand corner. So I have a fireball right now. Let's get to level 2. Then if I press right on the D-pad, you'll see it switches to my ice spell now. So I can tell before I shoot what I have selected. Go back to fire, shoot a couple more. Alright, so that's how you can switch different spells. And the last thing we wanted to cover is what happens if I wanted to do this ice spell. Typically in a lot of games, ice spells will like slow down a character, and they're almost more of a status effect than high damage, right? So let's add this. Let's make it so this does a status effect as opposed to damage. So if I go to my mana brain, let's actually go. It does no damage now, which is very easy to do. I can just set it to 0 now that I have this magic damage variable we're looking at. And then in my projectile brain, we're going to add some new logic here. So if I open this up, I'm going to first check to make sure that this is in fact a projectile. So if I go to combat events, I can do is projectile, which you can see determines whether or not this is an object being used by another as a projectile. So when I am a projectile, I'm going to look for when I basically I have to think about, okay, if I shoot this projectile, when basically when I hit an enemy, right, I want it to do this status effect. So what I need to look for is bump. So it's a sensor, go bump, and I need to know what the enemies are of the thing that created me, right? So I'm a projectile of something, but I want to know what the enemies are of my creator. So I can do that by going to objects, and then I can scroll over to the other page and go creator. So this refers to the object that created this. So if I bump my creator, and I can look under, so on page 2, I can go to teams, and so team logic is all about if you're friends or enemies with something, so if you can attack each other or not. So by default, the main character is team 1. By default, goblins are team 2, so they're enemies, right? We can attack each other. So I'm looking for this tile right here called enemies, and I want to check for that. So now I know when I bump the enemies of my creator. So when I do that, I want to make this enemy have a status effect where it slows down. And what I can do is actually use multi-brain again. We are big fans here at Team Dakota of multi-brain. So if I do it, which is a reference to that enemy, it always references the object most recently called on the win side. I can go scroll over here to brains, then scroll over to multi-brain, and then add brain. And now this is the really cool part, is what brain am I going to actually use here? And funny enough, we actually have a debuff freezing brain that already does what I want to do to these enemies. So if you didn't know, we have a huge gallery of default brains that are going to work well with your creations. So to find that brain from here in the gallery, I can go to Objects, Gallery Picker, and let's delete what I had searched here. And these are all these default brains that I have, including some that I've saved out here too. So you can see, like, there was I saved a ice wave on this computer, but the one I'm looking for is debuff freezing right here. So if I do that, that object now is going to add that brain. So what is this brain? Well, a good way to check out and look at what those brains are is if I go grab a logic cube just from the gallery. We always like to store logic in unlogic cubes. It makes a lot of sense. But we'll just put it right here right now. We're going to delete this in a second. But if I go to an empty logic cube, I can open it up and then go to the options here and go brain gallery. And this is what's going to open up all my choices. And if I choose one, it's going to open that brain now in this object. So let's go to that debuff freezing. All right, so here we go. It's just a single page. And what it does is, as soon as this brain runs, it's going to set a new number variable pace to the pace that was there. So I'm kind of saving it basically because I want to return to it later. And then I set the pace of this object to 0.5, so half the speed of what it would probably be normally at 1. Everything usually is pace at 1. Then I play some effects here. These are some art stuff. So when now this brain is on this character, it's always going to be highlighted blue. And then the pace, of course, will be set in half at the very beginning. And then after 5 seconds, the pace is going to return here to the original pace that we saved. And then it's going to play some effects, and then it removes this brain. So at that point, this brain actually comes off the enemy at that point. So it'll no longer highlight blue, for instance, because this is always running when this brain is happening, but this brain will get removed from that character. Awesome. So let's go to test and see what that looks like now with this projectile adding this brain to the enemies of my creator when it collides with them. So if I go to test, punch some goblins here, get to the next level. Oh, and they're kind of beating me up. All right, great. Switch over to ice. So I shoot him now. You can see I hit 2 enemies that time, and now they move both much slower, but I didn't do any damage to him. I can shoot it again here after it kind of charged up. So I can take advantage now that they're moving slow, right? Shoot another one. There we go. And then one thing I can do too, just in case I don't want to continue, once they have this effect on them, I don't necessarily want to, if I threw another ice ball at them, I can't kind of add that brain again. I don't want to duplicate the brain on top of it. So a good habit to do when you're adding brain is also to check if that object has that brain before you add it. So what I'm going to do is go, after I bump it, before I actually add this debuff freezing brain, I want to check to see if it has it already. So when, I'm going to actually say if it doesn't have it. So when I say not, it has brain. So if I go to the multi-brain here, on the win side I have has brain, and I point it to debuff freezing, it'll recognize whether or not it has that brain. So now if the enemy of my creator that I bumped doesn't have the debuff freezing brain, it will now add that brain. So this prevents me from stacking a bunch of these up on top of each other on that enemy. All right, so there we go. We'll just jump into test one more time, but that's how you cover adding a new spell to our mana system that we have. Make it so you unlock it at a new level, how you can switch between them, and then how you can add a new like a status spell onto an enemy character using multi-brain. So this guy now, if I have a full one, if I do it again, his status spell is going to end. Actually, it's not going to redo and put another 5 seconds on that countdown timer. So exactly what I want. And sometimes when you add multiple brains that are the same, you can get weird results. So good to check there. So that's going to do it for this tutorial. Probably the next 2 episodes we're going to be looking at how to buy and sell with a shopkeeper. So look forward to that. But that's the end for this episode. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.